Hello lovely people, so I'm back. Today is Wednesday the 17th of January and I'm filming this video for Friday. So by the time you see it, it'll be 2 days late, but I'll be on time, which is good. But I wanted to film today for a reason. So if you watched my last video, you might have heard me say that the 17th of January 2018 is a year anniversary since my very first book went into print. And it's kind of firstly it's something to remember, so it will always be the date that my first book went into print. And I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a year in review. We'll see how it goes. So this time last year I was just about at the end of the launch day Facebook party, and the launch day, it's never what you think it's going to be. And I think this is probably something for anyone out there that's not in print yet, that's not gone out and either self-published a book or got a publisher or any of those things. Launch day is never quite what you think it's going to be in your mind. Now I suppose if you're with a huge, great big publisher, there's a bit more bells and whistles, a bit more, trumpets and saxophones blowing and that kind of thing. But if you're an indie author going out self-published, or if you are going out with an independent publisher, like I did, so a smaller publisher, it's very different. So I think the first thing to do is to kind of shove a disclaimer in there and say that no matter what you do, whether you're self-published and independent or with an independent publisher that's smaller or slightly bigger, or one of the huge great big Penguin, Bloomsbury type publishers, there is still a certain amount of work that falls to you. So there is a certain amount of social media and marketing, and there is so much of the legwork that you have to do yourself, and it doesn't matter how big your publisher is, they will expect that from you. Even if they give you guidance on how to do it, or even if they've got a big enough platform to launch you from, you're still going to be expected to be present, all present and correct on social media. So for indie authors and authors with indie publishers, it's a little bit different again, because obviously there isn't a great big platform to launch from unless you've done all your legwork ahead of time. And I know a couple of authors that had the wherewithal to get themselves organised and do all that kind of work up front, so that by the time the book came out they were literally ready to just go mad. But for the most part, most of us authors, we suffer with all kinds of doubt, and so setting up social media platforms and trying to get them all up and running before we've even got a book to promote is something that a lot of us struggle with. So I think it's fair to say that sort of my first book came out with it was a little bit louder than a whisper, but not much, and then you kind of work from there. And so I think I wanted to chat today about what I've learned in the last year, not sort of specifically related around release day, but just what I've learned emotionally in the last year. Because being a writer is hard, and not just because sometimes we get frustrated with our characters, not just because sometimes we can't get the words down, not just because sometimes we want to get the words down but can't get the time, but I mean it's hard sort of emotionally and stressfully and mentally hard, because writers for the most part feel a soul deep need to write. That's why we do it, because otherwise why would you put yourself through it? And then when you let it go, when you let your work out there into the world, all those doubts and fears and worries, and they're all out there on the page, and every little review that comes back in matters. And it doesn't matter how logically you kind of deal with it, and it doesn't matter how sort of firm in yourself you are, where you can you try and reach that sensible space in your mind where you separate and or at least that's what I did. I've probably had a good handful of bad reviews, and you try and look at them as, maybe the reader didn't read the back, maybe they looked at the cover, maybe it's just not their thing, not everyone likes everything all of the time, and you just kind of have to let them go. But I think when your guard is down, that's when these negative reviews kind of creep back up, and you've always kind of got them to deal with. And it really is a true fact that you could have 100 5-star reviews. That 1 2-star, that would still be the kicker. It would still be the one that you could repeat. And I mean, that's just one of those little mind foibles that goes, underneath the title of crazy writer. These are our personality traits. So it's still something we have to deal with. And I think as the year has gone, I learned in the first year a lot more about the industry as a whole, and you look at changes with things like Facebook and the algorithms, and how you market your page and how you reach your audience, and are you promoting your book enough, and are you sharing enough, and are you Instagramming, and are you talking to people, and you get so kind of weighed down with all these things that you are supposed to be doing that you can forget sometimes that there are other ways to market. You can pay. You can do things like BookBub, and you can do Facebook boosts and Facebook ads and Amazon ads, but I think sometimes we also forget sort of the very basic strands of marketing. So you can speak to your local paper, you can take out an ad in a magazine, and you can hit the bookshops up, you can do book fairs and signings, and anywhere where you think your genre might fit. And I think as this year for me has gone by, I've looked a lot more at how I want to make sure that my books have got longevity. And I think what I have learned is that for a brand new author without a platform, that's me, by the way, brand new author without a platform, that's how I started. The only real way to grow a readership is to write more books. And yes, we have to be constant on social media, and yes, we have to, as authors, do what we can, show up where we can, and be involved where we can. But the most important thing is the words, getting the words down on the page, and sort of looking at the whole package. So the formats, the fonts, the editorial, the cover, does it all work around what you are trying to create and promote as your brand? So for me, I've kind of sort of spent a lot of time today thinking really about the different place I am now compared to where I started a year ago. And I think that this year coming from today is, I know that there's a lot of changes to come, and I'll tell you about that as we go. So I'm kind of restricted on what I can say and what I can't say. So yeah, I've got a lot of changes in how I want to be a writer, in how I want to reach my audience, the kind of things that I want to say, and how I want to say them, and the levels of control that you have over your own work. And so there's a lot of change coming up for me this year, and I suppose I feel quite quiet today, because it's almost like I'm getting ready for it, if that makes any sense. When you can you've got something coming up that's a big deal, or a long journey, or you have to kind of spend a bit of time working yourself up to it. So that's what I've been doing today without planning to. I've got on and done my normal work, I've got on and done my word count, and the emails and admin, and basic home, family, laundry, crazy stuff like that. But also it's been there all day today in the back of my mind. And I think that because we as writers are in a creative industry, I think that we have to remember sometimes that things hurt us differently than they do people, in regular jobs. I've had, regular jobs. I've worked for the bank and I've, worked in a school and that kind of thing. And the things that crop up from your regular day-to-day jobs don't have quite the same effect. And I think it's worth us as writers making sure that we take care of ourselves from an emotional point of view and from a mental point of view, and just the whole package of our well-being. And I've been thinking a lot about sort of physical fitness, because now I'm going to go full-time, at home full-time. I don't need any excuse to sit still and sit at a screen. So I've got to look at that. That's one of the things I've got to address. And I've also got to look at comparisonitis, and you're still, that those feelings never go away. And I just think that over the coming year I'm going to be talking a lot more about how to be kind to ourselves as writers and still achieve the word count, the business. Because being a writer is two parts. We are the creative part over here and we are the business mind over here. We are, a complete mix of right and left brain. And the mix of our right and left brain is centered around our creative output. And I think that can leave us in a strangely open place. So I'm definitely going to be sort of promoting mindful well-being for writers this year. And I think that's probably all I've got to say for today. If you are sort of touching base with my videos here on YouTube and you kind of like the gist of where I'm going, I'll leave a link to my Facebook page down below, because I put a lot of kind of author-minded inspiration and mindfulness up there. And it'd be lovely to connect if there are other writers out there that wanted to chat. So I will see you all next Friday. And that's pretty much it from me.